All right, let's jump right in. Today we're tackling a skill that is, no joke, one of the biggest factors in project success: stakeholder management. Seriously, it's the secret sauce that can make or break even the most perfectly planned project.
And this quote from Charles Kettering just nails it. It perfectly captures the core challenge of any project we take on. Because at the end of the day, a project is all about introducing change. And whenever you have change, you're going to get a reaction.
And that's the connection right there. The people reacting to all this progress your project is trying to make, those are your stakeholders. They are the human side of the equation, and getting a handle on their perspective, well, that's everything.
So, let's make sure we're all on the same page. What is the stakeholder? It's anyone with a vested interest. That just means they're either going to be directly impacted by what you're doing, or they have the power to influence how well it goes. Getting them on your side can change the entire game.
Just think about the last project you were on for a second. Who were the real key players? Yeah, you've got the obvious ones, right? The client, the designers, the contractors. But did you think about the government officials? Or maybe even the general public? And here's a fun one. You're a stakeholder to everyone else on that team too.
So what's the big deal? What happens when we mess this up? Well, the cost of misalignment is staggering. It's honestly one of the main reasons huge projects, especially in construction and infrastructure, just go completely off the rails. Let's dig into the damage.
The things you see right away are every project manager's worst nightmare. We're talking financial losses, schedules getting totally blown, scope creep, and a mess of contractual problems. But here's the thing. These are just the symptoms. The real cause is usually buried a lot deeper.
It almost always starts with people. When stakeholder management is bad, conflicts and distrust just start to bubble up, and suddenly you've got a toxic project environment. And what fuels that? A lot of the time, it's just really bad messaging. Vague or unclear communication that leads to massive misunderstandings, where it feels like everyone is working off a different script.
And from there, you get these functional breakdowns. Delays in getting the right info to the right people, that messes up the entire project flow. Then there's the lack of accountability, that feeling where no one is quite sure who's supposed to be managing a certain relationship. Well, that means critical issues just get ignored, until they blow up in your face.
Which brings us to this absolutely wild number. Now, okay, this stat is from the IT world, but the lesson here is universal. A whopping 80% of major project failures are tied directly to resistance from people. This isn't some soft skill thing, it's a hard, expensive reality.
Okay, so that's the problem. It's big, it's messy. How do we fix it? We start by taking all that chaos and turning it into clarity. And we do that with systematic analysis. It's time to stop guessing and start building a real strategy.
And the main goal here is actually pretty simple. All we're trying to do is drive the actions that will align what our stakeholders want with what our project needs to achieve. It's all about getting everyone to agree on what success looks like.
And to get there, we've got 3 really powerful tools. First up, the power/interest matrix. Think of this as your triage tool. It helps you figure out who to focus on. Then you've got the stakeholder analysis matrix, which helps you understand what actually motivates these people. And finally, the engagement assessment matrix shows you where your communication gaps are, so you know exactly what work you need to do.
So analysis gives us that much-needed clarity, but we still need a process to turn that clarity into action. And that brings us to a framework designed for positive, outcome-focused interactions with every single one of your stakeholders.
And this is it, the 6-step loop. You identify, analyze, plan, and engage. But, and this is the important part, it doesn't stop there. You have to continuously monitor their feedback and then report and adjust your strategy based on what you're hearing. This is not a one-and-done task. It's a constant cycle for the entire life of the project.
Now, let's be real. Even if you have the best plan in the world, you are going to face resistance. It's just inevitable. So the last piece of this whole puzzle is having a solid strategy for managing that pushback and hopefully turning it into support.
To manage resistance, you first have to understand where it's coming from. And this chart says so much. The top reasons people resist? It's not because they're difficult. It's usually because of failures in our own process. Look at that. Lack of communication and unclear objectives make up more than half of all resistance. Those are things we can actually control.
So our first line of defense is prevention. This is all about getting out ahead of the problem before it even starts. It means you are constantly, clearly communicating the why behind the project, the purpose, the need for it, and even the risks of doing nothing. Next up, we have proactive management. This is where we really start to think like strategists. We actively look for where resistance is most likely to come from, and we build plans to address those specific concerns before they can even bubble to the surface.
And finally, for the resistance that still manages to sneak through, we have reactive management. This is our playbook for dealing with issues that pop up after the project is already live. It's about having a plan in your back pocket to manage the conflicts you just couldn't prevent.
So how do we actually do this? Well, here are 3 essential tools. You can run workshops specifically designed to anticipate resistance. You can set up continuous feedback loops so you're always listening. And maybe most importantly, you have to equip your managers. They're on the front lines, and they absolutely need the skills to manage this stuff within their own teams.
So we'll leave it with this question. After everything we've just covered, from analysis to engagement to managing resistance, just take a second and think. On your project right now, which single stakeholder relationship, if you could just improve it, would have the biggest positive impact? That one? That's where you start.